something's got to show up on your labs to say, this is what's contributing to you not ovulating. You can't have irregular periods or one period every year and your reproductive hormones are going to come back crystal clear and beautiful on your labs. That's not a possibility. Welcome to the PCOS Fertility Health Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Angela Potter. I am an integrative PCOS fertility doctor, helping women like yourself who live across the country who are struggling with PCOS. I help them optimize their fertility so that they can grow the family of their dreams. And I'm really happy to see you here today. And I just think it's so cool that you showed up here today because that means that you are flooding yourself with information about how to improve your fertility. And even though you've been trying to get pregnant for the past 6 years, you are committed to finding the steps that are going to optimize your fertility health. And today we are going to be talking about fertility labs. So today and for the coming up next 2 weeks, we're talking about these common problems that I see in the PCOS fertility world. And we're going to unpack each problem and talk about why it's keeping you from getting pregnant. And then we're going to talk about what to do about it. Make sure that you have your PCOS fertility checklist. That is my free gift to you that I created as I have talked with countless number of women with PCOS. And I created this checklist. It's just a 10-item checklist that talks about the key pieces of a fertility journey that you need to have in place. And so when you download this, you can read through those and then you can check off the ones that you have already. And then you will be able to see just really clearly there, what are the steps that need to happen in order to have optimal fertility. So you can grab that free guide over at drangelapotter.com/checklist. I will have that link in the show notes for you. Join me over on Instagram. We have so much fun over on Instagram. I share PCOS tips, misconceptions, how to navigate this big fertility journey. You can find me over at drangelapotter.com. I'd love to see you over there because we just dive even more into PCOS and fertility. You are in the right place. If you have PCOS and you haven't been able to get pregnant, and you have been trying for the past few years, and you have gone to see your doctor, and they've ran a few lab tests for you, and they tell you that everything looks fine. And yet, because you have PCOS, the only way to get pregnant is through IVF. And you're sitting there thinking, but 2 + 2 should equal 4, and why am I being told that my labs are fine? And shouldn't I be pregnant by now? And so that just doesn't sit right with you. And you know that you want to be working on figuring out that root cause of why you haven't gotten pregnant yet. You want to take that time to optimize your body, really focus on improving these aspects of your health that you don't know yet that are contributing to you not being pregnant, and you want to really work on that. So then you have the very best chance at getting pregnant. Perhaps you get pregnant naturally. I see that in my practice. Or, you need a fertility medication, but you've worked on your health. So then when you try that medication, you have that much better of a chance of it working as it's supposed to. If that sounds like you, hooray, you are in exactly the right place. This is the community for you, and I am overjoyed to be here with you. And it's really my intent to help you understand from my medical perspective what the fertility world, how it could be very well keeping you stuck. Because unfortunately with PCOS, it's a syndrome. It's made up of different symptoms. It's not a clear-cut process in the body. And most of our medical treatments respond really well when we know that clear-cut process. And so with PCOS being that multidimensional, different symptoms creating the syndrome, there's certain holes that happen. in the medical world, and you've probably come up against it, right? If you've been told your labs are fine and yet you still aren't pregnant, or you've been told that, you can only lose weight and that's when will open up. There's lots of dismissive fertility advice out there. And so I am here to help you understand why that's keeping you stuck, and then how you can move forward in order to turn around your fertility. And today specifically, we are talking about PCOS labs. And, as I've been talking about, when you're told that your labs are fine and yet you still aren't pregnant yet, if that just doesn't sit right with you, that's right. You should be looking for some other answers. There's one big issue with labs that's keeping women like yourself stuck that I'm going to talk about in just a second. And then we're going to unpack that, because within this main issue of what we're seeing in the medical world with labs, there's two reasons why that's an issue. And so we're going to talk through that so you can get some big clarity on PCOS labs today. That main big issue with PCOS labs is that you're in that situation where you're talking to your doctor and they've run a few labs and they say, everything looks fine. You're going to have to go on some fertility meds or probably go through IVF in order to get pregnant because you have PCOS and your labs are fine and we just don't know what to do for you. Here's the key issue with labs with that situation. So if you've got some notes, jot this down or look at what time that we are at on this podcast episode if you were driving in your car so you can come back to this. Here it is. There is no way that you can be diagnosed with PCOS and you can have normal labs. I'll say that again. There is no way that you can be diagnosed with PCOS and also have normal labs. Those two do not exist together. The diagnosis of PCOS has 3 different criteria to it. You need to fit into 2 out of those 3 criteria in order to be diagnosed with PCOS. One criteria is having elevated androgen hormones. Testosterone is the most common androgen hormone, or the one you probably are most familiar with. And so there you go, elevated androgens. Number 2 is, these are in no particular order, but the second one I'll talk about is ovulation issues. That's a pretty broad category, but it just means that you're not ovulating, you're having irregular periods or long periods or really short periods, something, but you're just not ovulating. And then the third thing is having cysts on the ovaries. So those 3 criteria, you need to fit into 2 out of the 3. Do you see how you cannot have normal labs if you've been diagnosed with PCOS? You must have had elevated androgens on your testing, or you have showed symptoms in your office, in your appointment, that your doctor said, there's no real reason to run labs because we already know with all your chin hair and your acne and your belly, you're holding on to weight in your belly. That's really indicative of elevated testosterone or elevated androgens, but that means if we did run labs, something would come up. Ovulation issues. Now, again, that's a broad category, and so there's lots of different hormones that could be contributing to ovulation issues, different issues with egg quality, all of that. But something's got to show up on your labs to say, this is what's contributing to you not ovulating. You can't have irregular periods or one period every year and your reproductive hormones are going to come back crystal clear and beautiful on your labs. That's not a possibility. So that's another thing that's going to pop up on your labs. Third, cysts on the ovaries. Now we can put imaging into labs. And so if you have cysts on your ovaries in your imaging, there you go. Something came up on your labs. So right there with the diagnosis with PCOS, you can see that it is not possible to be diagnosed with PCOS and have normal labs. Those two cannot go together. And if you're working with a doctor who is telling you that your labs are fine, that's a red flag. You need to ask them some more questions, tell them why, because you'll say, I've been diagnosed with PCOS, but why? And then perhaps you want to go look for another doctor. I don't know your exact situation at this moment, but that's a red flag when you are being told that your labs are fine and the only way to get pregnant is through IVF. I mentioned that we are talking about this big issue with PCOS labs, and then we're going to break it down into two different sections to help us unpack that. So that big issue is such that you've been told your labs are fine, and now you know that that's just not a possibility with PCOS to have normal labs. But why? Why are so many women like yourself in that situation? And there's two common reasons that I see are happening. And that's what we're going to move into next to unpack. So the first thing that women, when they're in that situation where their doctors are telling them, your labs are fine, everything looks good, just come on back when you're ready to go through IVF. One issue with that is that the right labs just haven't been ordered yet to understand what's keeping you from getting pregnant. Some doctors don't run any labs in order to diagnose someone with PCOS. We can do that based off of symptoms because we know the symptoms that are very strongly correlated with certain labs being out of balance. And so oftentimes you are sitting with your doctor talking about your symptoms and they can say right away, oh, this is PCOS. It's helpful to get that diagnosis, but you need that next step of understanding, well, what's this concrete information that's showing up on my labs that create then actionable steps, actionable fertility plan moving forward. That's a key piece. And so if you are not getting the right labs ordered, then you're basically lost. Now, having these labs drawn to understand this comprehensive picture of what's showing up with your fertility is creating a map for you. So imagine with me, imagine you just landed in a new city that you've been dying to go to. You've read all about it and your best friend was there, 3 months ago. And they were like, you've got to go to this coffee shop first. It's so cute. They got live music. You got to go there first. And so you're at the airport and you're trying to figure out how to get to this coffee shop. What is the one piece of information that you need in order to get to that coffee shop? You need to know where you're starting from. Your friend, she told you the name of the coffee shop. She told you it's downtown, but you have to know where you're starting from because there is no way for you to pull up your phone, pull up maps on your phone and get to this coffee shop without knowing where you are starting from. And if you don't have the right labs drawn for your fertility, you don't know where you're starting from. Yes, you know exactly where you want to go. You want to get pregnant. You want to be growing your family because it's been your dream your whole life. You've always wanted to be a mother and you've wanted a big family. And you can see that. You have that in your brain at every moment. But you have got to understand and get that crystal clear picture of where you're starting. And that is key with these labs. And so if you haven't had the right labs ordered yet, then you're still in this weird place where you're like, okay, I'm at an airport, but the city has multiple airports. I'm there at an airport that has like 3 trees in the front. Right? That's so ambiguous. A taxi person who's on their way to come get you doesn't know which airport to pick you up from that. You've got to get that clarity to understand the name of the airport, the address of the airport, which floor you're on, which airline door are you at. You need all that information for somebody to be able to come pick you up, to know exactly where you're starting from to get you to that coffee shop. And you need a comprehensive set of fertility labs to understand Again, what are all the hormones? We talked about testosterone, but what are your estrogen and your progesterone doing? What are your LH and your FSH? What is your blood sugar doing? I have worked with women who haven't had their blood sugar levels tested for 2+ years while working with fertility doctors, while working with 2 doctors at the same time, and no one has mentioned blood sugar. And then here they are 2 years into it, finding out that they have insulin resistance, elevated blood sugar levels. And they're like, what have we been doing here the last 2 years? Because we know how strongly blood sugar impacts ovulation and egg quality. And so if you're walking around with elevated blood sugar levels, we already know that of course, you're having a period every 60 days or one a year. You've got to get that on your labs to understand, is this part of the puzzle for your unique fertility picture? What nutrients are getting in the way? What are your vitamin D levels, B12, iron levels? Really important. We can look at gut health. We can look at markers that indicate mitochondrial health. Mitochondrial health is the fuel that gets egg quality going. If your mitochondria aren't working as they're supposed to be, then your eggs don't have that fuel to create this happy, healthy, mature egg that's ready to ovulate. Let's talk about thyroid for a minute. So TSH is the main thyroid hormone that is ordered almost all across the board to evaluate thyroid health. Just looking at that TSH level, because that's one hormone in the thyroid, there's more markers to look at. If your doctor is only looking at your TSH levels, that is like calling up your friend to come pick you up, to take you to that coffee shop and saying, well, I'm standing in front of a blue car right now, and there's 2 people getting inside of it. And that's all you can tell your friend. That is not enough information for her to figure out how to come get you. That is the same with just getting a TSH for your thyroid. That's like, okay, kind of helpful, but we're not getting the full picture here. There are other thyroid hormones, there are thyroid antibodies that need to get looked at to understand, is this a part of your fertility picture? You don't want to leave those kinds of things hanging in your body, undiagnosed, unfigured out, because then that leads to more years of heartache and tears. These are things that need to get addressed now, so then you have time to optimize them. So then you can have the very best chance at getting pregnant. Okay, so let's summarize this again. So we've got this issue, right? You are being told that your labs are fine, and yet, we don't know why you can't get pregnant. And so you're going to have to go through these different procedures in order to get pregnant. Now, the procedures are not bad things. It's just that they're being recommended to you at the wrong time, because now you know this bigger issue of you can't have normal labs and have PCOS at the same time. And so before having that conversation about IVF or fertility medications, it's really important to get that clarity with your labs, to get that comprehensive view of what's going on in your body so you can put together these puzzle pieces. And the reason why you have been told that your labs are fine is, one, either your doctor is not ordering the right labs for you yet to understand that bigger picture of what is keeping you from getting pregnant. Or 2, you're getting the labs drawn, but your doctor is not interpreting them from an optimal fertility standpoint. So they're just looking at the standard reference range and saying, oh, you fall into that, everything's fine. But we talked about TSH, that even if you're in the standard reference range, that still flags from a fertility doctor as potentially contributing to your ovulation, egg quality, and not being able to get pregnant. So getting this level of clarity on your unique journey is key. Because with PCOS, it is a syndrome. It is made up of different symptoms, and your symptoms are different from your friend's symptoms, which are different from the lady down the street, her symptoms. And getting pregnant with PCOS, the key is an individualized plan and having this clarity of these labs in front of you, because then you understand what you're working with. You know where you are starting from, and that creates a map in front of you to get from where you are right now, having irregular periods, not being able to ovulate, never having a positive pregnancy test in the past 6 years. That creates a map to get you where you need to be, having regular periods, ovulating, potentially pregnant naturally, or knowing that these fertility medications are going to work better for you. So getting from where you're at right now and getting a clear map to where you need to be. These labs are the starting point. And so if you're in that situation where you're struggling, where you're saying, this just doesn't make sense to me, 2 + 2 should equal 4, there are steps that you can take in order to get there, to understand this comprehensive look at your fertility picture, and to have a fertility doctor's eyes on your labs to say, hey, this does not all add up. These actually need to be worked on in order for you to get there, to get to your dreams. Okay? And here's the next step that you're going to take if you're in that place and you don't know where to turn. You are going to sign up for a free PCOS Fertility Breakthrough Session with me. I am an integrative PCOS fertility doctor, and this is what I do day in and day out. And I will help you understand, what are these missing pieces? What labs haven't been ordered yet, and how are they keeping you stuck? And then I'm going to help you get clarity on that picture and then help you understand what you can do next that's specific to your needs in order to optimize your fertility. You're going to sign up for one of those at drangelapotter.com/PCOS. My calendar will pop up there for you. You're going to find a spot that fits perfect in your calendar, and then I'm going to call you at that time. And we are going to get dialed in on your fertility, what's showing up in your body that's keeping you from getting pregnant. Don't let these things keep you from the family of your dreams. There are steps you can take in order to optimize your fertility. And the first step is to have a call with me so we can talk about your specific situation. Can't wait to talk with you over on one of those, and I'll see you right back here next Wednesday.